I'm Jenny Fish with One Big Happy Yarn Company, and welcome back to our 1, 2, 3 knit cuff down socks with me, knit along. I'm so excited, I love socks, and now we get to learn how to knit the heels. I've got 3 different heels that I'm gonna be showing you. We have one that has a heel flap and gusset, we have a mock heel, and then we have a short row heel. So I will show you those in this episode. We are still using the same yarn, Universal Yarns Uni Merino sock yarn. Use any sock yarn that you like for these projects. Be sure to make sure that there is a 20 to 25% nylon to give it structure. You'll thank me later, trust me. And then I'm using a US size 2 knitting needle. That's like my go-to sock needle. But use whatever size you need to obtain gauge. All the other notions are still the same as I showed you in episode 1 when we started the cuff. So now we're ready to start the heel, flap, and gusset. And that's this little area right here. I'll show you how to do that. I have a little sample here. After you've knit the leg portion and you're ready to start your heel, this is the time where you can change colors if you want your heel to be a separate color, or you can continue on using the same color yarn. Here on my little sample, I'm going to go ahead and start my heel flap with a different color, and I just like the fun of it. So we'll get that started right now. So a heel flap and gusset. There's a lot of instructions for that, so I'm going to go ahead and have my pattern up here with me. This is one where I like to go to a quiet place when I'm working on this type of heel, because there's just a lot of concentration and a lot of things that you're going to be doing and remembering. And it doesn't take that long to work a heel, but it does take the concentration. So that's why I have that up here, and I have my yarn. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make the heel flap. And let me bring up my little sample here so I can show you exactly. This is where I'm at right now. This is the leg, and I'm going to start this little, let me turn it this way. This might make more sense. We're right here. We're going to start this little heel flap right here. And we're going to go from knitting in the round to knitting back and forth for this section. So I'm adding in a new color. Okay, we're going to slip one and then knit one, then slip one, then knit one, slip one, knit one, and we're doing this over half of the stitches that are on our needles. So basically, because I'm doing magic loop, I'm going to go across one side of my magic loop of my needles. Oops. That's a knit, then a slip, then a knit, slip, knit, slip, all the way across. And then turn. Now on this side, they said we went from knitting in the round to knitting back and forth, knitting flat. So now we're going to turn. And now for here, I'm just going to purl all the way across. Now you want to be sure that you always slip the first stitch on both sides of this, because this is going to give you a nice little ridge on the sides. You'll continue doing this slip one, purl one, all the way. The pattern will tell you how many times, but basically you're going to be making a little square. And the reason why that we're slipping one and purling one, it's building up the texture of that fabric. It's giving it more of a cushion, and that's going to be on the back of your heel, so it gives it more structure, makes it a little bit more thicker, and it won't wear out as much. So going back and forth like that. And I do have a little sample here where I have already knit my back and forth, and you've slipped the stitch on both sides, and you can tell that by this nice ridge of stitches on this side and nice ridge of stitches on that side. Very important. We want to keep those nice and neat. And when I'm doing this, like sometimes I'm just knitting along. I know that I'm slipping one, knitting one, and then purling back, and I've lost count because I do that a lot. A great trick is you can count the stitches on the side here, and that will tell you, it'll tell you how many times you've repeated rows 1 and 2. Each slip stitch is 2 rows. Another great hint is we want this to be a square. So if you fold it and it makes a perfect little triangle, it's a square. That's where you know that you can stop on this heel flap. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make the short rows for turning the heel. What I'm going to do is go ahead and slip the first stitch, and then your pattern will give you the exact numbers that you're going to need to knit across this top portion. But you're going to knit, and it's a little over halfway because you're creating those little short rows. You're going back and forth, back and forth. Okay, that should be good. And then you do an SSK, which is a slip, slip, and then knit. And we're going to slide that through there, knit through the back loop, and then knit 1, and then turn. So in short rows, you don't go all the way across. You're actually kind of just zigzagging through the center to add a little extra fabric there. And then you turn, you slip 1, and then I'm going to purl 3 back. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to purl 2 together and purl 1, and then turn again. And so what I'm doing is I'm creating this extra fabric right through here, through this center, working back and forth, back and forth. You continue working the SSK and the purl 2 together back and forth until you've met the sides, till you've worked all of the stitches and you're back to having all the stitches on your one needle. And your pattern will walk you through this step by step so that you get the idea of what we're doing here, but you're just working a little, and then on the second time around you go until you get to the gap. I want to show you what that looks like because that's a good visual indicator of when you need to do your next SSK when you're on the right side of your work, is there's going to be a little gap there. So you slip, slip, knit through the back loop, knit 1, turn, and then when you're on the purl side, a good visual indicator again is there is a gap, and you'll purl those 2 together, purl 1, turn, flip back and forth. It's going to look like this. So now that we've created the heel flap and we've created this little area here for the heel, now we're going to pick up all of our stitches and go back to knitting in the round, and then we're going to work on some decreases to pull it all together, and that gives us this little extra space. Let me grab the bigger. We worked this way, we worked this way. Now we're going to pick up all the way around, and this right here is decreases to pull it all back together. This gives us an area there for our heel to slide in right through there. That's what we're working on now, is picking up all these stitches to go back to knitting in the round. And I'm going back to my main sock color at this point because I like that little gusset area to match the rest of my sock. And we're just going to knit across here. And I'm always afraid I'm going to pick up and start knitting with my tail. Now, earlier when we were making that heel flap and I stressed that we needed to slip the first stitch of each row to give us that nice edge, now is where you're going to be very grateful that you did that. Because when we come across here, look how pretty those are. Now we can just go under. I like to go under the 2 legs of that stitch like that. I feel that that's more secure. So that's a personal preference. I like that. So that's how I do mine. And then I'm going to pick up all the way. Now in the pattern, it'll tell you exactly how many stitches to pick up. It's the same amount of repeats of the slip 1, knit 1 that you did before. But Sometimes when you're doing this, it may look a little off. If you need to pick up an extra stitch, that's fine. You can decrease it away later. Don't be afraid to make that modification. If you're looking at it and you're like, something ain't right here, you can do that. It's your sock. It's okay. I've been known to do that too when I'm like, I think this needs a little bit more. Yeah, if it's not closing up right, feel free to add another in there. You can always decrease it because when we work our decreases later on or in here in just a second, you're decreasing back to your original stitch count so you don't lose track of where you're at. And all of that information is in your pattern as well. Okay, so I'm continuing to pick up around here. This is the area usually where when I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, that's a pretty hefty gap before I get back to the stitches on the needle. And sometimes I just like, that might leave a hole. And I will come down in here and pick up another one. But I have to remember that later on I'm going to be doing an extra decrease because I picked up an extra stitch there. And now I am doing magic loops, so I'm going to pull my needle out. Now I'm on the front of my sock, and I just knit across this needle. We're almost done. We're almost done with this heel. It's not too bad. I think it's easier when you can watch somebody do it and see each section and how it's worked. And then across all these stitches. Oop, there we go. Now this area too, sometimes I like to also pick up a stitch right down in here to kind of close that little gap. And I think I'm going to go ahead and do that on this one because it just needs it. So again, this is magic loop. I like to leave all of these top of my foot stitches on the one side of my magic loop. So because I'm adding another stitch, I'm going to add it on this side of my magic loop. And I'm going to pick up right in there. And then we're back here. All these beautiful stitches where we slipped earlier. Again, we're going to do the same thing. Slide under, wrap around, and knit. We'll get all of these on our needle. Then we're going to have like way more stitches than when we cast on because we're picking up all these extra ones. So then we just do decreases to get them back to get our sock back to the original stitch count. And I'm almost there. Pick these up. Pulled it too hard. There we go. We could probably just jump to me being done here. Okay, that's the last one. Now my objective, because I do like magic loop, is to get all of these stitches like on one side of my work and all of those stitches stay on that side of my work. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and knit across till I get to 3 stitches before the end of this open area right here. So it's a little fussy, but it's not too bad. You just have to manipulate everything on your needles. Now I'm going to knit until I get to 3 stitches here and leave. I'm not going to put another loop in my cord at this point. I'm just going to get them all on here. Okay, so now I'm to the last 3 stitches. I'm going to do a decrease here, and I'm going to do a knit 2 together. So knit 2 together, just like that, and then knit 1. Now I'm going to knit straight across. There's that tail. There we go. These needles. Okay, so now I'm going to knit straight across here, and then if I was on a like all circular, I'd have a stitch marker here and a stitch marker here. So keep that in mind. Where your open ends of your magic loop are, those are stitch markers. So in your pattern, it'll say knit to the next stitch marker. We're going to knit all the way across here, and then we'll be at the stitch marker. I don't use a lot of stitch markers when I'm using magic loop because I can use my cord to tell me where I'm at. But if you're using another style of knitting that requires a stitch marker, then that's what that is indicating. So I'm just going to knit across here, and then I'll show you how to do the decrease on the other side. Okay, so I've knit across that side. I'm ready to do the second decrease in this round. And for this side, we're doing a knit 1 and then SSK, which is the slip, slip, knit through the back loop. Then you'll knit 1 full round with no decreases. That's called a resting round. Then you repeat that whole thing again where you knit until you are 3 stitches to the end of this side. And you do your knit 2 together, knit 1, then you knit across the front. When you come over to this side, you knit 1, SSK. So now you have finished this heel. We have created the heel flap. We've turned the heel by adding these, and then these are the decreases that create the gusset. We have this little extra fabric here, and that is so that it'll fit on your foot. Your heel goes into here, and this nice little pocket is basically what we're creating with these stitches. So now we're going to learn heel number 2. So the mock short row heel. Some of you may have heard of a short row heel, but this one is a mock short row, which means we're really not doing short rows. We're pretending. I'm going to show you on this heel right here. I'm going to open it up a little bit. So basically, we're going to work using decreases. A little panel like here, all the way up to there. Then we're going to come back and we're going to pick up the edges and finish this side, come back to knitting in the round and be back to our normal. Okay, so I'm going to use this little sample. Basically where we're at is right here as we just finished the leg portion ready to go into the heel. That's where I'm at on this little sample. And I'm going to work my heel in another color, so I'm using this melon color here. And first thing we're going to do is slip 1 and then follow your pattern, but it will tell you basically on this side, it'll give you the specific numbers, stitch count in your pattern, but we're going to work till we're almost to the end of this one side, so half of the stitches. I'm just going to knit across here. So I have 2 stitches. I'm going to knit those 2 together. Just like that. So I did a decrease. I knit 2 together. So now you're going to turn. So you're no longer working in the round for this portion. You're working back and forth like I showed you on the last heel. This is the mock short row. So we're just going to go back and forth. And now I'm on the wrong side, row 2. And we're going to knit 1. So this is a purl side, but I'm going to knit 1. When I knit this one, I'm creating a little bead, a little bump on the outside of my work. Can't see it right now, but you'll see it when I come back to this side, and I'll be sure to show that to you. Now I'm going to bring my yarn forward, and I'm going to purl till I get to the last 2 stitches. Basically, it's like when you work garter stitch and you knit on both sides of your work, then you get those little purl bumps on your work, that's basically what we're doing for that last stitch, and it's creating a little bump. And we're going to work purl all the way across. Okay, so now I'm to the last 2 stitches. I'm going to purl those 2 together. Just like that. And then turn. Now I'm back on the right side, but now I'm going to purl this first stitch. And by doing that, I'm creating a little bead. Those beads are going to come in handy later. So I purl this first stitch and then go back to knitting. And I knit all the way across till I get to the last 2 stitches, and then I'll knit those together like I showed you before. So you'll go back and forth like that, and then you're going to have a piece that looks like this. And remember, I was talking about those little purl bumps or those little beads. Here they are right here. So these are the little beads or little purl bumps I was talking about right here on the edge. And then I'll show you on the finished sock where we're at right now. Right here, just like that. So we're working these, we're making like a triangle right up through there. Now once you finish, and your pattern will tell you when you've finished this portion, we're going to the mid heel. And the mid heel, you're just going to go back and forth 2 times. It puts a little extra fabric right there at that crease. And so then, here's a little tip when you get, that I found is helpful for me when I got to this point, once I've made my little triangle portion and I'm ready to do the other half of my heel. I took some dental floss in advance and took my tapestry needle and I thread it through those little bumps. Just through here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. And I just let it hang out there for a minute. And I did that on both sides. The reason for that is when I come back and I'm combining my sides together, I have to knit into that little purl bump or that little bead. And it's hard to find it when you're on the other side of the work. So by having my dental floss just hang out here, I'm like, that's where that's at. So those are there. I can see them. The dental floss is bright white. The stitches show through. So here we go for the second half of the heel. And again, these steps are in the pattern for you. They're not as intimidating as they sound. I need to be on the other side of my work, so I'm just going to slide these over here. This can be a transition. Okay, here we are. We're all set up. I've got my dental floss showing me where those beads are. I'm ready to knit across here. So on row 1, right side, for the second half of the heel, we are going to slip 1 and then knit to the end of the row. And then we knit into that bead right there. Knit into that. And then I can pull my dental floss out as I don't need it there anymore. And then turn. Slip 1, and then I'm going to purl across. I'm going to purl into the bead on this side. I'm going to use my dental floss to kind of pull that stitch out so I can just slide my needle right in there. And there we go. Then turn, slip, knit across, knit into that bead stitch on the other side. You're going to continue back and forth until you've worked all of those side stitches, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've worked both sides, and I have this nice little pouch here for my heel, and I'll show you on the finished sock like this. This is what it looks like. Now I'm ready to switch back to my main color and start working the foot in the round. No more decreases. You have the same amount of stitches that you started out with on the leg portion back here, and boom, you've worked the mock short row heel. How exciting. I really liked this one. This one was fun. Now we're going to move on to the actual short row heel, and let me show you how we do that. So now we're ready to learn the short row heel. Let me show you what that looks like on our finished sock here. Pretty close to the mock short row, except for this time we're actually going to work some wrap and turns and combine all these stitches together. It's a little bit less fabric involved in this one, and this is one you just have to feel it to see. This join here is just a little bit thicker than this join. But other than that, I mean, look at these guys. They look almost identical in the stitches. So this one was the mock, and now I'm going to show you how to do regular short row heels. Okay, so we're going to start out. Again, we are here, and I'm switching my yarn color so that my heel will be another color. And we are on row 1. Again, notice we went from round to rows. When we're working this heel, we are working back and forth. We are not continuing to work in the round of the sock. Now, in the pattern, it will tell you for the size that you're making exactly how many stitches to work across before we start the wrap and turn. So now I'm going to show you a wrap and turn. Also in your pattern, you'll see it as a W and symbol and then a T. It stands for wrap and turn. So I'm going to bring my yarn to the front. I slide the first stitch from my left needle to my right needle. Then I bring my yarn to the back and see how it's wrapped around that stitch. Now I'm going to go ahead and slip it back to the left needle and turn. So when I do that, this stitch is wrapped. Now I'm on the purl side, and I'm going to go ahead and purl back, and when I bring my yarn up to purl, then it finishes that wrap on there. Just like that. Let's see. Here is the stitch, and there is the wrap. Now I'm going to work back on the purl side. And again, your pattern will tell you how many stitches that you're going to work back. Okay, so now I'm ready to wrap on this side. My yarn is in the front because I've been purling. I'm going to take my yarn to the back. I'm going to slide the first stitch from my left needle to my right needle. Then I'm going to bring my yarn to the front, and then I'm going to slide that stitch back. Then when I turn like this, I'm ready to knit the first stitch, and when I do that, it finishes up wrapping that stitch. So now, and these are both the same color, but here is the stitch and here is the wrap. The wrap is laying horizontal, and there's the stitch. So you'll go back and forth making these little wrap and turns. And these are short rows. They're adding extra stitches. Okay, so now I am coming up onto my last wrap and turn right here. And so you knit to one stitch before that wrap and turn, and then you wrap that one. So I'm going to bring the yarn forward, slide it over, take the yarn back, slide, and then turn. And then now I'm going to purl back to one stitch before the last wrap and turn. So you'll continue going back and forth, following your pattern until you have worked all of those wrap and turns. And then I'll show you how we close up those gaps. Okay, so I've created all those wrap and turns, and I've worked these little short rows in here, and I'll show you where I'm at on the finished sock. We have worked all the way up to here. Now it's time to create the rest of our heel, and I'll show you how we finish working those wraps into the fabric. And this, again, all in your pattern, row by row, but we're gonna knit till we get to the first wrap, and then we're gonna work that wrap. And to work that wrap, you want to knit the wrap, that's right here, and the stitch together. So I'm going to slide my needle through both of them and knit. Now I need to wrap the next stitch, and this is called a double wrap, and it closes up that gap as well. So I bring to the front, slide, and slide, just like that. Turn, and then purl back. So you're working the one, and then you're adding another wrap right after you work that first one. And we'll purl till we get to the wrap on this side. Where'd you go? There you go. Okay. And so now I'm going to purl this stitch with the wrap underneath, and here's the wrap here. There's a couple different ways you can do this, and this does get a little tricky. And sometimes I will go ahead and just like take my double pointed needle and slide the back leg of that wrap up onto my needle so that I can get under both of them when I purl those two together. That seems to be like the easiest way. Otherwise, you're kind of doing some contortionist act here to try to pick up that. And then you're going to wrap your next stitch. So we're on the purl side. I want to take my yarn to the back, slide, wrap, slide back, and turn. So that's how you work in your wraps back into your fabric. By the time you've knit back and forth, knit and purled and worked those wraps, then you've created that cup and your heel is done. And you're ready to switch back to your main color and work your foot. So that is how you work a short row heel. Pretty simple, not that hard. This is what it looks like. And when you lay it sideways, nice and pretty. There you go. So thank you for joining me for episode 2, the heel portion of our 1, 2, 3 knit cuff down socks with me. Don't forget, you can still get your kit at onebighappy.com. The kit includes yarn and the pattern, but if you have your own sock yarn out there, go ahead and just check out our pattern. Or if you want to check out some crazy cool, amazing sock yarn, check out our sock yarns on our website as well. And don't forget, meet me back here for episode 3. We're going to close up these socks with 3 different toe options. Thank you for joining me, and happy knitting!